Why do you need a 5-figure offer? If you already have a 5-figure offer, why do you need a 6-figure offer? And yes, those exist. And yes, I have made those. And yes, I sell those. And honestly, they're almost no, they're almost always easier to sell than your little bits and pieces and courses and cobbled together less expensive solutions. They really are, and that takes some mind work to wrap your brain around. But let me talk to you about why, especially now, you need a 5 or 6-figure offer. There's several reasons, and I want you to take notes. I don't have a notepad set up today, but I want you to take notes. And that is, number one, you need that offer so that you can anchor the price of everything else you do with that. Let me say that again. It's an anchor for everything else that you do. So if you feel like it's a struggle to sell some of your other things, when you create a unicorn offer, is sometimes what I call it, when you create that dream offer and put a price tag on it, knowing that you can fulfill it, knowing that you would gladly fulfill it if somebody bought it, knowing that you can reference it, when you create that offer, it anchors your offer's value, your business's value, and it honestly helps everything else seem affordable by comparison. So, for instance, a way that you will see business owners do this with other people's offer is that they'll say, well, this self-study course will help you double your bottom line at a fraction of the cost you paid for your university degree. Now, your university degree or trade school degree or certification or whatever those may be might be 10,000, might be 100,000. You may still be carrying 200,000 in debt, but you immediately have a price anchor, a price reference, so that now that $2,000 course doesn't seem like as big of a deal. So one of the reasons why you need a 5 or 6-figure offer in your business is so that other things have a nice comparison. Otherwise, you're letting your audience choose their own comparison, and that doesn't work well for us. Let me give you that same example. The cost of their home study course for $2,000 compared to their college degree, you can give them that price anchor. Or they're going to say, oh, $2,000, my kid needs braces, and that's going to be $2,000. So this, I can't compare this to that. Or $2,000, my first car was $2,000. And they immediately default to something else that they perceive as a higher, more worthy value. So you have to be in charge. It's leadership. You have to lead them to what the appropriate comparison would be. So when I am making an offer for my 6-figure offer, let's say it's for speaking and consulting, and I'm talking to an event planner, and I say, well, one way that I work with organizations is, and I detail out what I call the offer stack. I detail out the stack, and I also sell the experience, not the expert. Otherwise, you get caught up in the value of you and the worth of you when that's not what they're buying. Stop that mess. Stop listening to people that say charge what you're worth. It's what is the experience worth? What is the result worth? That's a hidden nugget right there. Write that down. So when I'm selling the experience, the 6-figure experience of having me on site and having me speak, et cetera, and I'm painting that stack, which is something I teach in great detail, and I anchor that with $100,000 or $125,000, depending on the location and all those kind of things. And when or if they say, well, actually, we just only need a keynote speaker. We just can't do that. We only need a keynote speaker. That then lets them anchor in their mind $125,000. And suddenly my $25,000 for 60 minutes seems like a steal, right? It's an anchor. Now, does that offer exist? Yes, it absolutely exists. It exists because I spoke it into existence. And the first time I spoke it into existence, somebody took it. So yes, it's an offer. Yes, I would gladly fulfill it. Yes, I put things in it that I can do and or hire somebody to help me do. So I'm not telling you to make up a fake offer. I'm saying you make up a new offer as an anchor. So that's one reason you need it is the price anchor. Write that down. Number two, number two, you also need a jumping off point for if somebody wants to negotiate or has a different budget, et cetera. That can fall under anchor. The third reason is whether we like it or not, pricing communicates authority. Pricing communicates authority. If you don't believe me, then you can go car shopping. Like if someone tried to sell you a BMW or a Rolls Royce or a brand new Ferrari for $20,000, you would be suspect. You would be suspicious. You would wonder what was wrong with it. You would wonder if it was real. We just returned from my daughter's graduation trip to Italy. And if I found affordable Italian leather, I was suspicious. I was suspicious because I knew the artisans that had handcrafted and handmade their Italian wares were very proud of that, and rightfully so. So price communicates authority. If you say to me, I want to be your virtual assistant or your web designer or your service provider, and I'm $10 an hour, 15 an hour, 20 an hour. First of all, I don't want to hear any kind of an hour because I'm suspicious that you're going to overhour me, number one. And I don't necessarily feel like you have comprehended what the problem is that I need you to solve. But if you say to me, I don't charge per hour, I charge per solution. And in order to get 3 funnels set up with 2 landing pages and this delivered and this tested and this converting, it will take approximately 3 weeks and be $5,500 or $11,000 or whatever. And we will keep working with you until it converts. Immediately, I trust that you know the solution. Immediately, I know that you're a higher value provider. And I'm also assuming that gives you some margin to have some help. If you tell me $10, $15, $25 an hour because you're trying to get my business, I know you don't have room to pay for any help. I know it's just you. And I am then concerned that I'm one person deep on my solution. So the second core reason you need a bigger offer is because pricing conveys authority. Here is a fact for keynote speakers. Are you ready? Fact. If you are trying to sell your keynote services at $2,500, you're going to have a hard time getting booked. If you mark it up to 5, you'll get a few more deals, but there's no difference between 5 and 7,500. But when you bump it up to 10,000, your demand immediately goes up. I don't know the exact science, but we've proven it over and over and over again with clients. I think it's because event planners think, oh, if they're only charging $2,500, if they're only charging $5,000, then they must not be very good. They must not be in demand. They must not be very popular. Pricing signifies authority. So that's number 2. Number 3 is that it gives you cushion to have some help. It gives you cushion to pay for your software. It gives you cushion to pay for your taxes. You have to get out of an hourly mindset because you're not an employee anymore. When you're an employee, and there's nothing wrong with being an employee, but when you're an employee, you're paid for your time. You're paid for when you're there, and they take out your taxes and they cover the business expenses and they hire the people that work with you. And so you can afford to do that job for say $30, $40, $50 an hour because they're covering everything else. When you're an owner, you're covering your taxes, you're covering your trademark, you're covering your expenses, you're covering repairs, you're covering everything else. So you cannot afford to charge hourly. You have to put margin in so that you can cover all those other things that are expected and unexpected. So those are just 3 reasons, but they're very important reasons. Number 4 is one of the most important ones, though. Number 4, and then we're going to get into creating your offer. Number 4 is that you need, it's kind of a 2-prong. One prong is it keeps out the tire kickers and the complainers for the most part. The other is it will delight you and shift something in your brain because you're delighted to work with these people, with somebody that's vested, with somebody that's all in, with somebody that sees the value of what you're solving, with somebody who's in pain enough to know that you're the surgeon for them, so to speak. It will fire you up about your business again. It will give you space to breathe, space to hire, space to think. That's a little known need for business owners. And now I've been doing this over 20 years, almost 25 years. And what I will say is nobody ever taught me, told me, prepared me for the fact that I need to have time to sit and think, sit and plan, sit and map out, sit and ponder, sit and wonder, sit and research aside from my income producing time. And the only way to do that without affecting your income is to make sure that your income has enough margin so that your thinking time, your planning time, your research time is covered by those margins. If what you're doing is charging per hour, per project, for all those things with lower cost offers because of what it's worth or what you value it, or some outdated ascension model or work ethic programming, we'll talk about that in a minute, then you're not giving yourself any time to think or be or do or marinate or rest or recharge. So those are the core reasons that you absolutely, positively have to create those 5 and 6 figure offers. Okay, you got it? Type those in the chat. If you want to recap those in the chat, tell me what you've heard already. The first one is what? I know you guys are taking notes, so let's go ahead and type it in the chat. What's the first one that you heard? Some of you joined late, so this will help you get caught up until you can watch the replay later. The first one is you need that 5 or 6 figure offer in order to create a what? Do you remember? It's also kind of related to boats. If you're thinking back to that, it's because you need to create a comparison of sorts. You need to create an anchor. You need to create an anchor so that they don't substitute their own comparison in there. You need to be able to do that. So already during this training, I've done the same thing. I've told you about my 5 and 6 figure offers. I've told you about my keynote and consulting offers. I could also tell you that I have a $50,000 VIP day. I could tell you those numbers so that if and when you see an offer from me, I have already given you the anchors to compare that with, instead of you saying, well, she wants $1,000 for that. And the fact is that would be a nice weekend, getaway for my husband and I at a hotel or whatever. Like, I don't want you substituting that anchor. As a leader, as a CEO, I need to be able to do that for you. So it's an anchor. All right. Part 2. What's the second reason that you need to change that pricing? What's the second reason you need a 5 or 6 figure offer? And let me say, while you guys are typing that in the chat, let me say, I'm aware that some of you don't even have a 4-figure offer yet. I'm aware. It's okay. I've got you. You may never have a 4-figure offer, and it's okay. You're still allowed to be in business. I'm going to give you permission to go from startup to 5-figure, to go from struggling to 5-figure, to just launch the freaking 5 and 6-figure. There is no imaginary ascension, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Okay. Number 2, Jessica says, good job, Jessica. Jessica says pricing communicates authority. We didn't make the rules. We just live in the world where they are. Pricing communicates authority and worth and value. It just does. And so if you want people to take you seriously for your keynotes, for your coaching, for your service packages, you have to have a price that's equivalent to what you're solving for them. Good. Okay, now the third is what? I'm going to take a break, take a sip. Tell me what the third is. What's the third reason that you need a 5 or 6 figure offer? 5 or 6 figure offer. I recognize that there are a lot of people talking about low ticket right now. I recognize there are a lot of people telling you to mark things down. I recognize that, and I disagree. Here's what I think is necessary to make the biggest difference in your business right now. Yes, it gives you margin and cushion for expenses, et cetera, because the more you charge like an employee, the more you're going to struggle the way that employees struggle. And our goal is for you to start charging like a CEO, because a CEO has different expenses than an hourly worker does. Yeah, Jessica, I have never, ever, ever charged per hour. Even when people say, hey, what's your hourly rate for a keynote? I don't do that. I charge for the experience. I charge for what they want for their audience. I charge for, no, there's no excuse for a boring keynote. There's no excuse for low achieving sales force. There's no excuse for, that the hit and run keynote speaker that doesn't really know your audience. Like, I sell the whole experience, not the expert. That helps me remove me from the equation, but it also helps them know that I know their market and I know what they're solving for. And I don't do coaching that way either, Jessica. I have never charged coaching per hour. I used to have coaching packages that had so many sessions in them, but my sessions have never been an hour, because if we can solve it in 15 minutes, we don't need an hour. That just becomes therapy. But now I just do per quarter. So if I'm charging you $50K for a quarter of coaching, the fact is that just means we're touching base once a week. It may be Voxer, it may be text, it may be email, it may be an appointment, maybe a laser session, but I don't sell hours, because you can never grow your business beyond 40 hours. You just can't do it. Yeah. And Casey said this, Casey, who does video work, like if she's charging per hour, then she's got to be really careful about how long her editing and her creativity takes her, which sounds ridiculous, but she has to be, because she needs to make sure that the client knows she's not taking advantage. She also needs to know she can only edit for 40, 60, 80 hours a week, depending on what kind of lifestyle she and Sheila want. So that's why you can't do per hour. Okay. Fourth reason that you need a 5 or 6 figure offer. What's your fourth reason? What do we talk about? The fourth reason you need it. Somebody tell me in the chat. Fourth reason we need a 5 or 6 figure offer is it delights you. It makes you excited to show up. It brings you invested prospects. Thanks, Denise. It brings you people that are willing to show up and do the work. People that value your expertise. People that take care of nice things. I know that sounds silly, but really you don't buy a Rolls Royce and then keep trash in the back seat. We need to work with people that delight us. One of my big red flags about coaching clients or consulting or speakers is when they start trying to say, well, so-and-so charges this. Okay, call them. That's great, but so-and-so isn't Carrie, and so-and-so doesn't deliver this experience that Carrie does. And so really, if all you're concerned about is budget and bottom line, then that shows me that you're not vested in what the actual solution and the actual issue that we're fixing looks like. Okay, so these are the reasons why you must have a 5 or 6 figure offer. Notice I didn't say it so you can be wealthy. That's your business. Also, wealthy for some people is 60 a year, and for other people, 60 million is never enough. Like, I'm not trying to say you have to be wealthy. I'm not trying to say so you can have all the nice things. I am not a person that puts a lot of stock in things. Like the pointing the wrong way, the farm table that you see over my shoulder. I think it's a dupe for Crate and Barrel or whatever, the big expensive farm tables. But the truth is, my dad and I made it out of pine before he got sick. And I think it was $300 of materials. And could I have bought the more expensive table? I probably could have. But what I wanted was something that my dad created. And so that's what we invested in. I'm not a stuff person. I'm an experienced person. I just returned from Italy with my daughter, my youngest, who's about to go to college. I am vested in musical theater. As many of you know, if you've been around, I'll pay for good ticket to musical theater, but I still get discounts on other things. So it's not about, hey, you need to charge more so you can be rolling in the dough. No, but you do need to charge more so that you can up-level your client quality, so that you can up-level your own personal experience, prevent burnout, get some help in your business, pay your taxes. Guys, I've been coaching a really long time. And when I was coaching, I would say starting about 15 years ago, I noticed that the number one reason people were leaving their businesses and going back to jobs is because of their tax bills. Because they weren't budgeting for their taxes, because they weren't planning enough margin for their taxes or their expenses, or hiring help because they were just charging enough to get the business. And we've got to stop that. Okay, so all that being said, there are a couple of mindset shifts that we have to have. Are you ready? There's a couple of reasons that you're not already doing this. And I just want to unpack that a minute. Because for some of you, you've already learned what you need to know to go create your next unicorn offer. You already have. You just needed me to explain, oh, okay, that's it. That's the reason. I'm going to keep going though, because there are a couple of reasons. Some of you are new, or you've been struggling your entire business and you think you have to ascend to that pricing. Well, once I have successfully sold my solution for $40 an hour, then I can bump it up to 50, and then I can bump it up to 60, and then I can bump it up to 70. And I'm going to tell you that's false. That's false. First of all, the current people that you're working with always hate pay rises. They always hate pay increases. They do. It's just how we're wired. We don't like it. If you don't believe me, listen to how people are complaining about groceries right now, or complaining about gas right now, or complaining about every single thing that's going up right now. People do not like pay increases. However, guess what's still selling? Luxury homes, luxury vacations, luxury cars, luxury apartments. There are all kinds of things still selling. And not because somebody said, oh, my first apartment was 400. Now I can go into a 600 apartment, or now I can sell for 600. It's not that. You have to stop with the ascension. Let me tell you a true story. When I started keynote speaking, it was on accident. Some of you that say, oh, I want to be a keynote speaker, that was never a goal of mine. I just was doing things like this, like YouTube or Blog Talk Radio back in the day, or teleconferences, or those kind of things. I was just talking about my business and talking about solutions and communicating and answering questions publicly. And an organization reached out. This is back when we had phone books. And somebody reached out to my landline and said, hey, is this Carrie Wilkerson? We've heard you online doing an interview with so-and-so. I don't remember who it was. Yes, that's me. We have a sales conference in Fort Worth, Texas in July, and we'd like to hire you to be our keynote speaker. Oh, okay. Now keep in mind, I never keynoted officially anything ever. I said, oh, okay. And they said, now we recognize that we probably cannot afford you. Our budget is probably not big enough. I had no idea how to charge them. Like, is there a book for how much your first keynote should be? Some of y'all be like, I'm going to speak free for 100 years, and then I'm going to charge 500, and then I'm going to apologize and tell them whatever they think it's worth. I said, I just was totally thinking on my feet. And I said, well, what is your budget? Maybe we can make it work. And I think their budget, it was either $2,000 or $2,500. I have the check posted on a clipboard. I think it was $2,000. And I said, and that's in Fort Worth, so I would be able to drive. Would you also cover my mileage? Y'all, I'm 15 minutes from 4. Okay. And would I be able to sell CDs or tapes or some kind of product to make it more profitable for me to be there? I was totally bluffing. Like I had never done any of this before. And they said, yes, 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 whatever it would take, we'll get you there. Okay. So then I hung up the phone, and then you know how we do. Like I squealed. I'm like, I've been told to shut up my whole life. Now I'm going to get paid to talk. This is very exciting. $2,000 like that. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. They sent me with a contract. They paid me in full in advance. I think they were afraid I was going to change my mind. I called a friend who I knew the head of NSA, the National Speaker Association. I said, I don't know how to charge for this. Is this something that's going to start happening? He said, Carrie, pricing is totally subjective. It's a made up number. Could you type that in the chat, please? Could you just repeat that in the chat, please? Pricing is totally subjective. It's a made up number. I said, yeah, that's great, but how do I know how to charge for my keynoting? He said, what will it cost? I had little kids at that time. What will it cost to get you out of your house, sleeping at a hotel, and away from your kids? That's what you charge. And be happy about it. He said, that's what you charge. Okay. So $2,000, I was going to Fort Worth. I loved it. I actually made more on CD sales than I made on speaking there. But somebody called 2 weeks later and they said, hey, we're having an event in, I think it was Columbus, Ohio. And we would like for you to be our featured keynote. We've been following you online and we love what you have to say. What is your pricing? And I said this. Tell me more about your event. Tell me more about who's going to be there. What would you like to have happen at this event? What is your motive? Great. Okay, let me put something together and I'll get back to you. Right? Do you hear that? I bought some time. Then I did some research and I looked up who their keynote speaker had been the last 2 years. And then I looked up the speaking rate for those last two people. Incidentally, they're friends of mine now, but I looked and one of them was 12.5. Now, he had a book. I didn't have a book. He had been around a while. I had not. So when I came back and quoted him 7,500 plus expenses, plus book sales, I was very confident in that because I knew what he had paid before. I could have been hung up. Lean in, y'all. Lean in. I could have been hung up on the fact that I had never charged that before. And who was I to think that I could go from 2,000 to 7,500? I didn't think that. I thought, how much does it cost to gleefully get me out of my house and away from my children and be okay with it? How much did they pay the person last year? This must be valuable to them. This is what I feel okay charging. I went from 2,000 to 7,500. Some of y'all are hung up on, I can't charge that. I'm not worth that. I haven't put in the reps for that. I haven't. They wanted me as a keynote speaker to fill this time slot and to follow this human from last year. They could have said no. They signed that agreement super fast. Okay. So I went from 2,000 to 7,500. Nobody asked me for proof I had charged that before. No, I did not have a book. I think my book had just come out or was about to come out. Not quite sure. Did not have a New York Times bestselling book. Still don't. I had not spoken in big arenas at that time. Are you ready? And I went and did it and they were happy and nobody tried to take my money back. Please type an aha or what's hitting for you in the chat right now. Like I am making up these own restrictions in my head. It's okay if you tell me that. Some of y'all, it's because you know too much about what other people charge and you're afraid to charge more. My keynoting right now is really expensive. You know why? Because I don't like to fly a lot. It takes me a long time to recover. I'm older and I've created this beautiful home and a beautiful backyard and I don't like to leave. So it's expensive to get me out the door, or it has to be a really fun place that I want to go and take my husband with me or one of my kids with me. So type in the chat something that's hitting for you. It's okay if you skip over price points. Type that in the chat. It's okay if I skip over price points. Are you hearing me? It's totally okay. All right, I'm gonna blow your mind a little more. So then all of the sudden, because I'm doing the thing I am loving, and because people are seeing me, I'm in demand suddenly. Suddenly I'm a keynote speaker. Suddenly I'm a keynote speaker. And that same year, I kid you not, that same year I was called by two major companies with audiences of 12 to 14,000. Say that with me. 12 to 14,000 audience members. Well, who's she to be speaking to us? Well, what qualifications does she have? Nobody ever asked me that. They saw me doing, they saw me charging. They said, what would it take for you to come do this event for 12,000 people? My husband made an offhanded remark. Are you ready? Everybody ready? You got to listen to wisdom from unexpected places. He said, I wish you could charge per head. So I did. I told him it would be 12.5 plus one extra plane ticket plus this plus that. 12.5. Okay, so let's backtrack. First keynote was 2,000. Second keynote was 7,500. Then we went to 12.5. And it's never gone below that again. And it's gone up to 100,000 for an experience or a package of keynotes. I didn't have anybody's permission. I don't have a show. I don't have a New York Times bestselling book. I don't hang out with famous people. I've not gnawed off one of my own limbs or escaped, a harrowing situation that National Geographic has written about. I'm just a girl using her mouth to grow her business. There is no, I have to earn this next price. It's okay to skip over price points. You don't have to justify it to anybody, not even yourself. You don't have to. Here's the other thing. It's subjective. And if I have red flags about something, or if I don't like the location, like I'm crazy expensive to travel international right now. Keynote internationally, I'm very expensive. Why? Because I don't love the flight or the time zone change or being that far from my family. I don't like it. So I'm expensive. And that's okay too. It's okay too to create different price points for different things. I have colleagues that speak that charge a different price for West Coast versus East Coast because of where they start from. And because of how hard it is to get to their next gig if they already have something else. So I need you to stop thinking price is a rule and that has like consequences if you don't follow it. It's subjective. You're the CEO. You get to make it up. You get to test it. You get to play with it. It's flexible. So there is no earned ascension. Once I create my $20 thing, then I can bump it up to 30. No, listen, this applies to course creation too. I have courses that I used to give away for free that I then started charging for. There's no price police. There is no penalty for that. If somebody complains, you can say, whew, well, I'm glad you got in when it was free, or, oh, I'm sorry you missed that during that limited time window. It's okay. You have to stop being fearful. Also, you have to not worry about what that makes your hourly rate and if you think you're worth it. So for instance, I'm gonna talk about my mom for a little. Mom and I are very close. She's now in a caretaking season for my dad, and she's really hung up on hourly. And some of you have probably heard me tell this before. So if she hires a housekeeper or lawn maintenance, and let me just be clear, like lawn maintenance, I just started paying for it because I didn't want to argue about it anymore. She has 7 acres. 7 acres. How long would that take her to mow? Long time, right? My dad has great pride in their yard, but he just can't do it anymore. But the first time a crew came out there, she couldn't believe what they charged me because they were only here an hour and 15 minutes. I can't believe they charged you for that. They were only here an hour and 15 minutes. So she was in her head, like that's blah, blah, blah per hour per person on the crew. I said, I know. Isn't that amazing? An hour and 15 minutes and you're 7 acres. You could literally list it for sale right now. It's so beautiful. I'd have paid double. you see the difference in thinking? So sometimes you think, oh, well, I could offer them this funnel and this web page and this email sequence. That'll only take me about 10 hours. So maybe I should just charge them $1,500. Girl, stop that. What is it solving for them? How long would it take them? If they increase their sales by 10%, what's it worth to them? If they had to hire all the individual people or figure out all the coding, like what is it worth to them not to have to deal with it? Also, one reason you got to quit thinking about hours is faster. This is going to blow your mind. Type in the chat. Faster is more valuable. Faster is more valuable. If you said to me, Carrie, I want to lose 15 pounds. I say, okay, great. I have 2 packages for that. I don't, but I'm going to pretend. I have 2 packages for that. I have my 6-month deluxe package, which includes all these calls, all these supplements, all these recipes, all this meal planning. And in 6 months, you're going to lose that 15 pounds. And because it's 6 months, it's a $3,000 program, right? $3,000 program to lose 15 pounds. Or I have a 5-day program. I have a 5-day program. We jump on the phone. I do this test, that test. I evaluate this, give you the meal plans, the recipes, the macros, print out all the shopping lists for you, have the food drop shipped to you for the next 6 weeks. And you're going to drop 15 pounds in those 6 weeks. Now, some of you, that's a really extreme example, but some of you are like, well, it only took 6 weeks. So that program is shorter, so I should charge less. Let's think about this extra 15 pounds. Is it more valuable to me to lose 15 pounds fast, or do I want to lose it slow? Do I want to stop smoking over 6 months, or do I want to stop smoking in a weekend? Do I want to fix my marriage fast, or do I want to long drawn out fix my marriage process? Short is premium, is higher priced. That's why the VIP day is popular. That's why a done for you solution is popular. Fast is more valuable. Type something in the chat that bubbled up for you about that. Stop pricing based on hours or time spent. We price based on the solution, the resolution, the fixing, the pain. If somebody comes into the emergency room and they're bleeding and you're the triage nurse, they don't want you to hand them 4 books about how to fix their problem. They want you to bandage it up, stop the bleeding, give you something for the pain, and get you in to see a doctor. That's valuable. Yes? Type something in the chat that's bubbling up for you. Faster is more valuable. I don't care what it costs you per hour. I don't care what it costs you per hour. I don't care what you're making per hour. Some of you need to get over your money issues. While I'm here, you probably want to read The Psychology of Money. It might uncover some things that you're struggling with or dealing with. You might have hit the ceiling on you don't think you can make more than the people in your neighborhood, more than the people in your family, more than people with advanced degrees, more than your spouse, whatever that is. Money is just energy. Money is just currency. It's not value. It's not worth. It's not the fabric of you. It's you solving their problem. It's you knowing what button to push. It's you being compensated for all your years of studying and practice and embarrassment and all of those things. So faster is more valuable. Those of you that have 12-month coaching programs, one of the best things you could do, shrink it down to shorter, charge more for it, and get them results faster. Otherwise, it's babysitting. Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay, type some things in the chat. Let me hear what's coming up for you on faster is more valuable. Some of you, let's also type into the chat if you feel comfortable with this. Some of you need to type in 2 numbers for me. Type in 2 numbers for me. Actually, type in the number of the most you've ever charged for something. The other number we'll keep in our head. Type in the most you've ever charged for something, whether that's hourly. Nobody's going to shame you, blame you, poke fun at you. None of that. This is totally safe. But what's the most you've ever charged for something in your business? What's the most you've ever charged? You guys know I've charged over six figures for something. Totally fine. Here's another price elasticity thing. Testing price. When my coaching went up to 50,000, that was for a year-long contract that I did with somebody. The next person that I talked to about coaching, it was 50,000 for 9 months. The next person and these were all within a few weeks. The next person was 50 for 6 months, and now it's 50 a quarter. We just look at what we're solving for them, how we're going to get there, and if it's worth it. The truth is, it could be 50 for a phone call, depending on what I'm solving. 50 for a phone call, and that would be totally worth it. Depends what we're solving. Some of you today, this YouTube will be worth $50,000 to $100,000 for you in the next 6 weeks, because you're going to take action. You're going to make a change, and you're going to price something differently. So let's look in the chat. Okay, 5K, 8K, 5,000, 18,000. Okay, so only one of you has charged 5 figures. So those of you that have charged less than that, you have to say, great, what can I put in my offer stack for perceived value so that then I can business Jenga and take some things away? Now, I know that all sounds like jargon right now, but inside of premium pricing, we go through the offer stack a lot. Basically, if you think about a Jenga stack, that's the experience with Carrie, the Jenga stack. Let's say it's 120,000. That way, when an event planner says to me, oh, we just really can't do that, we weren't prepared for that much, I say, totally fine. Let's look at the stack and see what you want to pull away in order to get to that number. We can't obviously do the whole stack for 125 for what you're looking at. Let's say 50. We obviously can't do the whole stack for that. So tell me what you're willing to take away, and let's see what we can do. That puts me in the power seat of what's being offered. And it also gives them an anchor of what, where we're starting, and it makes everything else look better. And sometimes they just really don't want to take some things away. Now, is there a way with what you're doing that you could shrink down, you could compress the time frame, which makes it more valuable? Let's talk about Disney for a minute. My family loves Disney. I have 4 kids. And for those of you that don't know, I have 4 kids. They're all almost adults now, but we're all Disney kids at heart. Disney is genius at this. It's already expensive to get in. It's already expensive to stay out there. But if you don't want to wait in line, you can pay to compress your experience. You can pay to get to the front of the line. Valuable. They sell out of these. You say, the economy's bad, the blah, blah, blah. Tell Disney that. People will pay to compress the time of their delivery. If you use Instacart or Walmart Plus delivery or any kind of a grocery delivery service, you can pay for faster delivery. It's premium. It's an upcharge. Why are we not doing this in our business also? How could you compress delivery? Just FYI, Delivery Engine, which is the next engine, the last engine of the 3 engines. We already have Pricing Engine. We already have Premium Pricing. We have Pricing Engine. We have Audience Engine. Delivery Engine will be the next one. It will not be delivered over 6 to 8 weeks. It's going to be delivered in 2 days. My certification for engaging speaker and success coaches will be delivered over a period of 2 days, not 6 to 8 weeks. Because if that's something somebody wants to add to their arsenal, to their skill set, why would they want to wait 6 to 8 weeks? No, they want to get in, get out, knock it out, get their certificate and their resources, and know how to go get clients for that. How can you compress results? It's good for you, but it's also really good for them. How can we lose the 15 pounds in 5 days or 2 weeks instead of 6 months? That's worth a premium price. How could you increase the perceived value and or remove some of their fear or angst or uncertainty about it in order to raise that price? That's another thing that's helpful. Velvet glove, concierge. How can you elevate their experience? How can you make it a Tylenol experience? Scott Stratton used to say that, the Tylenol experience, meaning it's headache free. How could you do that? I've talked about this over and over and over again. My mom thinks I'm a little spoiled because I like valet parking. She does. I'm not. Well, I mean, yeah, Eddie has spoiled me, but I did valet parking even before that. Before that, I did valet parking because I was a procrastinator and I was usually running late, had a lot of kids. I think I told you that. I used to also be very disorganized. Optimists are notoriously late because we think everything's going to go right. I also have geographical anxiety. Like I'm afraid I'm lost. It's better now with GPS, but back in the day, I was really afraid I wasn't in the right place at the right time, or maybe I was in heels and I didn't want to walk from 2 parking lots away, or whatever that looked like. To me, paying $10 for a valet to say, thank you, ma'am, and go park my car and then bring it back to me in the same spot was a premium, was really valuable. I didn't care how many cars he parked per hour and if he was valuable enough to make that kind of money. I didn't care. I just cared that I knew where my car was going to be when I was ready for it, that I was on time, that I wasn't sweaty or frazzled. That peace of mind for me was worth a premium. And I have paid up to $100 for a premium parking pass, for a show, for an event, for a concert, for a whatever. I have paid a premium price for an Uber to take me someplace I could have driven for the same reason. I am paying to mitigate the anxiety, the uncertainty, the unknown. How can you do that in your offer? So Lacey says, okay, Lacey, Tylenol was just an example. I know you're functional medicine. It's just an example. Don't use that as a literal, but Lacey's in functional medicine. I know that that you say you want to give the body time to heal. Totally fine. In your offer, again, everything we talk about, I can't customize for every single market, but in your market, the way you could compress results, the way you could elevate the experience is done for you shopping lists, done for you resources on who they could hire as a chef, done for you videos on, alternatives to things at the drugstore, videos on avoid this, steer towards this. Anything you can do to eliminate guesswork and bring a concierge feel to it would be so much better. Okay, does that help? You cannot obviously rush the body to heal. But then I might also say, what is something that you have seen repaired quickly or eliminated quickly? And I'm going to use inflammation as an example. And if you know they could see a visible reduction in inflammation in 5 days, then you heavily market the reduction of inflammation so that then the body can start the healing process, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And guys, like I said, this can apply to any market. You just have to put your thinking cap on. Tracy is a piano teacher. Tracy might offer a premium package. You ready? My mom taught piano for years and years and years. It was always weekly. She didn't hold anybody to a contract. Obviously, she needed a business coach. But what if your package that you sold was that they would be able to play 10 party songs at any get together and blah, blah, blah within X amount of weeks? Now, you might laugh. That might not be valuable to you, but I know people paying 5 and 6 figures to music teachers, music coaches, handstand coaches, flexibility coaches for an end result in a compressed period of time. Tell me what's bubbling up for you. Tell me an aha in the chat that you have. And then I'm going to tell you another reason why you're hesitant to charge more. We get stuck on ascension. We get stuck on what our hours are worth. We get stuck on our credentials, our certifications. Guys, I have a master's degree in leadership. Nobody has ever asked me. I have a bachelor's in mass communication. Nobody has ever asked me what my degree is in, ever. I do not have a master's or bachelor's in business, and I've been doing business successfully to an executive level for 25 plus years. And I've been brought in to coach C-level teams. Irony upon irony. I've been asked to teach college classes of people that have more advanced degrees than I have. So we need to quit getting hung up on, am I qualified enough? Are you doing the thing? Have you done the thing? Have you achieved the result? Then you're qualified. Stop borrowing the anxiety and the questions. Okay, another reason that you're struggling with charging a higher price is because you've never paid a higher price, because you begrudge other people that are charging those prices, or you have comments or raised eyebrows about them. True story, in 2008, when I started getting more online, I had a service-based business that was wildly profitable already. We were doing really great, but I felt like an economic event was coming. Hello, recession. I felt like an economic event was coming, and I wanted to diversify my income, and so I joined a mastermind. And I really didn't want to spend the money. I believe at that point it was $15,000. I really didn't want to do that. I was really concerned about that. My husband is an accountant. His primary job is to keep me out of jail, keep my taxes paid, keep me out of jail. And Eddie said to me, babe, with a year with these people and this coach, do you think you could get one idea that you could make your money back? Well, yeah, duh. I'm a smart girl, yes. Do you think you could partner with one person and you could co-create a product or get introduced to somebody where you could make that? Well, yeah. He said, then I feel like that's probably the easiest decision ever. He said, and better yet, if you put it on a credit card, why don't you just challenge yourself to pay it off this month with whatever it is that you learn? And so I did. And when they asked me at that mastermind, when they asked me like my primary reason for joining, I said, because I see a gap in the market of women in business that are doing cool things online. Remember, this is 2008. And I want to be able to give myself permission to charge for a mastermind or a high-level coaching group. And I think the only way I'll be able to do that is if I've invested myself. So some of you have never seen the value in an advanced result or a quality thing or a compressed time frame and have begrudged that investment. And therefore, if you haven't done it, you're going to have a hard time expecting it in your business. A lot of us that have come up through ministry backgrounds or nonprofit backgrounds or very, very blue collar scraping backgrounds, it's difficult to leap in our minds. These are the same people complaining about what entertainers make, complaining about what athletes make, complaining about what other people make. That is not taking money out of your pocket. It should excite you. It should energize you because money is just energy moving around the planet that allows us to have different choices, experiences, and abilities. And Denise typed premium and luxury in the comments. And some of you think, well, I'm not a luxury person. I think of premium and luxury as two different things. Like I think of premium as faster results, more accelerated experience, somebody very qualified. To me, luxury is a little bit more like pampering, but I know that's semantics. I don't consider myself a luxury brand kind of person, but I am somebody who likes a premium experience for sure. Okay, so those are a couple of other things. Now, here is, you've been programmed to when is enough is enough. You've been programmed to who do you think you are? You've been programmed to think, oh, you'll have to, stop me if you've heard this one, pay your dues, earn your way, climb the ladder. Nope, it's all a false construct. It's a false construct of education. It's a false construct of a tenured system of institutionalized business, of warehouses and career ladders. When you're in business for yourself, you make the rules. Period. Full statement. Mic drop if you do that sort of thing. There is no qualification or earn the next or whatever. Um, let my keynote story inspire you. My coaching story inspire you. Pricing is subjective, pricing is made up, and you can do this. So, how do you create that offer? How do you create it? Number one, get out some paper. This is how I create every single offer that I make. You pull something out and you say, what are the results my client needs? What are they trying to solve for? Let me use Denise as an example. She helps people establish citizenship in the Grand Cayman Islands. What do they want? Citizenship. When do they want it? Now. Okay, sorry, not trying to do that. But they want to avoid chasing down paperwork. They want to avoid making lots of copies. They want to avoid standing in lines to file things with the clerk. They want to avoid wasting their time because these are high value individuals that could be making more money doing something else. They want to avoid missing steps. I could have said the same thing when we were in the adoption process. People that would come back and go, oh, we need this other form. Well, I don't have that form. Like, nobody ever gave me that form. If I had had a concierge or somebody helping me handle that adoption, they could have said, these are the forms. These are all of the forms. These are the ones we know they always need and always use. We're going to have you fill out one master form, and then we're going to transfer all that data to these other forms. We're going to bring it to you just for a signature and just for your income documentation so that we can go stand in line at the courthouse and handle those things for you. What do they want? They want not to miss steps. They want it as soon as possible. They want their tax advantages. They also might like, okay, here's how we build an offer stack. They also might like for Denise to provide them the best areas of town to live in, the landlords to contact, the areas to avoid, ways to tackle their schooling, the one person to call to set up all their utilities and their billing, how to set up a mailing address internationally, or better yet, somebody on the team to set it up for them. Do you see the difference? She could be a clerk and file paper for them as they come in and make an appointment, or she could handle the experience. Here's one more example. We love to travel, and we can travel on a budget. It's kind of fun to hack some of those deals and those kind of things. But this trip I just took Lily on was actually a tour with art teachers, professors and art teachers. Lily is going to college to study art. And so a teacher that did an art camp for her when she was in elementary school, she's kept in touch with. And this woman was helping host this tour. Now, when you do a tour, there's a premium charge for that because they've built in the cost of the leaders. They've built in the cost of the guides. Like, could we have traveled to Italy, especially two of us, much cheaper than we did? Yes. Why was I willing to pay a premium? Well, number one, for the experience. She was traveling with other artists that were going to see Italy differently than I would. I am not an artist at all. Like, not at all. Words are my art. I paid a premium because every site that we saw, we had concierge service. We did not have to wait in a line, and we had a guide. We did not have to plan our itinerary, but we did have some free time blocked out so that we could go do some of the stuff that we just wanted to do if we didn't want to hang with the group. Our hotel reservations were made for us. We walked in the door and they would hand us a key. Didn't have to get out my ID or my credit card or worry about incidentals or any of that. Didn't have to change my own currency, any of those things. I had safety because I had somebody with me at all the time. Somebody else planned the agenda. All we had to do was show up. That was worth a premium. We maximized our art sites that we went to see. We had projects. Lily got to paint in Italy. We created things in Italy to enhance the experience. So could we have traveled to Italy for cheaper on our own? Yes. Why was I willing to pay a premium? I would estimate I probably paid double, if not more, than what my experience would have been otherwise if I had done it. But my experience was fuller, simpler, safer. I had no anxiety, And Lily just told me today, hey, I'm thinking instead of a study abroad next year about going back with the art teachers to their next thing because it was so valuable, so amazing for her. So how can we do that? I never asked the art teacher if she had been to Italy before. I mean, she had some social proof and those kind of things, but I never said, why is it worth this? I never said, how many years have you been teaching art? Who's the guide that's going to meet us there? I mean, they have to trust you on a certain level, but here's the thing. Number one, you have to trust yourself. Do you trust yourself to charge and deliver? Yes or no? And number two, we get really caught up with thinking that we're in an era of mistrust, that we have to establish trust with all of our prospects. Let me tell you something maybe a little contrary to what you're hearing otherwise. I believe that the big trust problem right now is that people don't trust themselves. They've done other year-long programs before. They've hired other providers before and then they didn't follow through. Well, that's probably because that provider made it hard. They have not done the course before, so they don't trust themselves to do it. They have invested before and they haven't followed through. So the fact is, you have to help your prospects believe in themselves and you have to believe in you. And when those two things happen, that's when you can serve in a really brilliant, elegant kind of way. But we have to stop thinking we have to add more and more and more things and more time, because right now, condensation, compression, that's where the value is. Casey is a video editor. If I said to her, Casey, I have these 5-hour-long keynotes, what I need is 2 sizzle reels, 1 intro reel, 10 shorts for my social media, and a hype reel. And I need those. And so I need a price for that. If Casey comes to me and says, I charge this much per hour, and this is very standard for video editors, is how I know. I charge this much per hour, and I do this many sets of revisions, and that's probably a 2 to 3 week project for $75 an hour. That doesn't appeal to me in the least. And Casey may think that $75 an hour is amazing. But if Casey says to me, well, there are 2 ways I can typically work with clients. By the way, if you're scared of the conversation, always do the typically 2 ways conversation. There are typically 2 ways I work with client. Let me present them both to you if that's okay. And then you can decide which one is best for you. And Casey could tell me that. And then she could say, or if you're really in a rush on this, because I know that every keynote is valuable for you, my team and I could produce those assets within a 72 to 120 hour time frame. I'm just making this up. Could get those back to you within 5 business days, at least with your first round, so that you could be up and running. And we could probably do that for a package price of $12,000. I'm not sitting there figuring out what that is per hour because I don't care. She's paying team. She knows what she's doing. What I'm thinking is 1 keynote is worth twice that. The faster I get those video assets handled, the faster I get those keynotes. And what I'm going to say to her, if I'm a qualified buyer, what I'm going to say to her is, and so do you have time this next week, or what does your backlog look like? Like, those are the kind of questions that your clients ask you. How quickly could we have those done? You're exactly right. If they hem and haw and they want to do hourly, then guess what? They're going to argue that 2-minute reel took you 15 hours to edit because they're a person that begrudges the hourly. Who's the better client? Who's the better client? Now, you can break it down if you want to take half up front and half on delivery. Like, that's on you. That's something we go into great detail on in the pricing engine or my coaching or any of those things. But what you have to wrap your brain around today is, number one, you don't have to escalate to it. You can set that offer today. Number two, you can set the offer even if you've never sold it before, because it needs to be an anchor. Number three, you have to trust yourself. and we have to help the client see what's possible for them too. We've already talked about all the reasons you need it. Then we create the experience so that you're selling the experience, not the expert. So Lacey's going to be talking about how good it's going to feel when you're not waking up stiff or you're not dealing with all the side effects of inflammation and bloating and those kind of things. She's not selling you on every day you're going to have to do this lemon water with chia added and also avoid gluten, soy, etc. No, she's telling them what the experience, the results, and the dream is, because that's where she's going to help them get to. Denise is going to be able to tell them how seamless their transition is going to be with the right papers and her concierge and all of those kind of things. That's a 5 to 6 figure offer. It also makes marketing for everything else you do simpler, but it's the ultimate filter for who you want to be working with and who you don't want to be working with. Now, here's another number I want you to be thinking about. Okay, you ready? Let's take your highest price thing you have right now and let's make it a 5-figure offer. Let's just be conservative with a 5-figure offer. Your 5-figure might be 25,000. Your 5-figure might be 10. Yours might be, let's just make it a 5-figure offer. How many of those would you need to sell a month to free up a big chunk of your time, allow you to hire some help, and let you breathe a little simpler? Or even just help you pay for your software bill or your office space or whatever it is that's on your expenses. How many of those would you need to sell a month in order to buy you some of that margin, energy, time, or profit? And then conversely, how many of your current offer or your current hours or your current promise would you have to sell to hit that same amount? I think it's worth some thinking time on this. I think it's worth the piece of paper. What am I delivering them from? So we didn't talk about the piece of paper. The piece of paper I write down, what do they want me to solve for them? Where do they want to be? What do they not want is on the other side. What do they not want? They don't want all the courses. They don't want all the jumping through hoops. They don't want all of that. What do they want? What do they don't want? And then here's what you don't do. You don't write down, lean closer. You don't write down 8 videos, 3 audios, 2 workbooks, 75 minutes of coaching time. Those are deliverables. We don't price based on deliverables. Write this down, type it in the chat. We price based on deliverance. What are we delivering them from? Embarrassment, pain, peril, inconvenience. What's the deliverance? That's what you price for. That's what you price for. This is why dating matchmakers can charge $25,000 and $50,000. Whew! If ever I were single, first of all, I'd be single because I cannot even imagine dating again. I've been married so long. But if ever I were single and decided to date, 100% would pay a matchmaker. I'm not doing dating apps. I'm not doing speed dating. I'm not doing, hey, let me introduce you to somebody. I'm going to pay for high quality introductions of somebody that's vetting and having all those conversations. I just can't bear the thought. Moving is another one. I don't care what you're making per hour to move me if I move to a different house. I just want to leave here with my duffel bag and then show up at the next place and all my stuff is there after a really nice vacation. Like, what are we delivering them from? Your price is based on deliverance. Okay, I want you to type yes in the chat if your brain changed today. Type yes in the chat if your brain changed today. I need to know. I need to know if this was helpful, if this was useful, if your brain changed or at least is working in a different way. Type yes in the chat. Yes, Tom Selleck is married. He's also aged out a little bit. Also, he's about to retire, so I'm not about that life. I'm not trying to support somebody. Whose brain changed today? Let me see it in the chat. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, good. Okay, So that being said, I would love to know how you recreate your offer, whether you come back and watch this replay and type it in the chat, how you recreate your offer or what you're doing now, whether you jump into the premium pricing engine for more details and scripts and forms and how to have those conversations and how to elevate that. I would just love to know. Go check your emails. There is a promotional code this week for that. Here's the video you need to watch next. Are you ready? It's on the YouTube channel, so you can click around and find it on my YouTube channel. It's the one where you're elevating your clients. It's about how you need to elevate those conversations, how you need to elevate your thinking, how you need to elevate those clients, because some of you are sitting here like this, and you're like, well, that all sounds fine and good, but not with my email list, not with the people I know. Great. So go watch Elevate Your Clients. That'll help you wrap your brain around this. And I can't wait to see what you do next. I'll see you guys on our next YouTube Live, and I can't wait to hear about your 5 or 6 figure offer. Bye, everybody.